Buick, formerly the Buick Motor Division, is an upscale automobile brand of the American manufacturer General Motors. For much of its existence in the North American market, Buick has been marketed as a premium automobile brand, selling luxury vehicles positioned above GM's mainstream brands, e.g. Chevrolet, while below the flagship luxury Cadillac division. Buick retains the distinction of being the oldest active American marque of automobile, and the original Buick Motor Company was a cornerstone of the establishment of General Motors in 1908. Before the establishment of General Motors, GM founder William C. Durant served as Buick's general manager, while his friend Louis Chevrolet worked as a racing driver for Buick and later learned automotive design working there. Buick-branded vehicles are sold in the United States, Canada, Mexico, China and Taiwan. In 2015, Buick sold 1,231,941 vehicles, a record for the brand. Since restructuring in 2009, GM has also started to share technology, vehicles and development between Buick and GM's European Opel division. Buick-branded vehicles are also known for reliability, ranking in the top 10 for reliability in Consumer Reports' brand reliability rankings. History. Early years. Buick, founded in 1899 in Jackson, Michigan, is one of the oldest automobile brands in the world and the oldest in America. It was founded by David Dunbar Buick as the Buick Auto and Power Company, an internal combustion engine manufacturer. The first two Buick automobiles were made in 1899 and 1900 by Buick chief engineer Walter Marr, but David Buick was reluctant to begin making automobiles, being satisfied with stationary and marine engine production. So Marr left Buick in 1901 to found his own automobile company under his own name. His replacement was Eugene Richard, who applied for a patent in 1902 for the valve-in-head engine, which patent number 771,095 was awarded to Richard in the name of Buick in 1904. This was the world's first overhead valve internal combustion engine, although it was called valve-in-head because the cylinders were horizontal, so the valves were not actually overhead. In 1903, the third Buick automobile was made, this time by Richard, but in 1904 Buick moved to Flint, Michigan, and Richard stayed behind. Marr was rehired in Flint as chief engineer to begin making automobiles in production. That year, 37 Buick automobiles were made, production increasing to 750 in 1905, 1,400 in 1906, 4,641 in 1907, and 8,800 in 1908, taking the number one spot away from close competitors Oldsmobile, Ford, and Maxwell. David Dunbar Buick incorporated his company as the Buick Motor Company on May 19, 1903, in Detroit, Michigan. In March 1904, the company was purchased by Benjamin Briscoe, who quickly sold it to James H. Whiting, owner of Flint Wagon Works, in Flint, Michigan. Whiting moved Buick to Flint that summer to a location across the street from his factory, with the idea of adding Buick's engines to his wagons. David Buick stayed on as a manager, and rehired Walter Marr as chief engineer. The engine Buick and Marr developed for this automobile was a two-cylinder valve-in-head engine of 159 cubic inches, with each cylinder horizontal and opposed to each other by 180 degrees. Whiting built only a few automobiles in 1904 by bringing Buick engines across the street where his workers shoehorned them into his wagons, before running out of capital, causing him to bring in William C. Durant that year as controlling investor. Durant was co-owner, also in Flint, of the Durant-Dordt Carriage Company, which was the largest carriage-making company in the country. Durant spent the next 4 years turning Buick into the biggest-selling automobile brand in the U.S. David Buick sold his stock upon departure in 1906, and died in modest circumstances 25 years later. In 1907, Durant agreed to supply motors to R.S. McLaughlin in Canada, an automaker, and in 1908 he founded General Motors. Between 1899 and 1902, 2 prototype vehicles were built in Detroit, Michigan by Walter Lorenzo Marque. Some documentation exists of the 1901 and 1902 prototype with tiller steering similar to the Oldsmobile curved dash. In mid-1904, another prototype was constructed for an endurance run, which convinced James H. Whiting to authorize production of the first models offered to the public. The architecture of this prototype was the basis for the Model B. The first Buick made for sale, the 1904 Model B, was built in Flint, Michigan at a repurposed factory that was known as the Flint Wagon Works. There were 37 Buicks made that year, none of which survive. There are, however, 2 replicas in existence. The 1904 endurance car at the Buick Gallery in AMP Research Center in Flint, and a Model B assembled by an enthusiast in California for the division's 100th anniversary. Both of these vehicles use various parts from Buicks of that early era as well as fabricated parts. These vehicles were each constructed with the 2 known surviving 1904 engines. The powertrain and chassis architecture introduced on the Model B was continued through the 1909 Model F. The early success of Buick is attributed in part to the valve-in-head, or overhead valve, engine patented by Eugene Richard and developed by David Dunbar Buick. The Model F had a 2-cylinder engine, an 87-inch wheelbase and weighed 1,800 pounds. The creation of General Motors is attributed in part to the success of Buick, so it can be said Marque and Richard's designs directly led to GM. The basic design of the 1904 Buick was optimally engineered even by today's standards. The flat twin engine is inherently balanced, with torque presented to the chassis in a longitudinal manner, actually cancelling front-end lift, rather than producing undesirable lateral motion. The engine was mounted amidships, now considered the optimal location. Durant was a natural promoter, and Buick soon became the largest car maker in America. Using the profits from this, Durant embarked on a series of corporate acquisitions, calling the new megacorporation General Motors. At first, the manufacturers comprising General Motors competed against each other, but Durant ended that. He wanted each General Motors division to target one class of buyer, and in his new scheme, Buick was near the top. Only the Cadillac brand had more prestige, a ranking that Buick occupies currently in the General Motors lineup. To save on resources, Buick vehicles shared a common platform, called the GMA platform, that was shared with Chevrolet, Oakland, Oldsmobile and Cadillac. The ideal Buick customer is comfortably well off, possibly not quite rich enough to afford a Cadillac, nor desiring the ostentation of one, but definitely in the market for a car above the norm. At first, Buick followed the likes of Napier in automobile racing, winning the first ever race held at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The first full-size Buick to join the smaller Model B was in 1907, when the Model D was introduced with a 4-cylinder 255.0 cu-in engine, installed in the front with rear-wheel drive. In 1911, Buick introduced its first closed-body car, 4 years ahead of Ford, the car was built at the all-new factory in Flint, which later became to be known as Buick City. Buick during the 1920s made various sized vehicles, with series designations for different years, sometimes using numbers, while later years using lettered designations. One of the larger vehicles with straight 6 and straight 8 engines was the Buick Master 6. In 1929, as part of General Motors' companion make program, Buick Motor Division launched the Marque sister brand, designed to bridge the price gap between Buick and Oldsmobile. However, Marque was discontinued in 1930. All Buick, Marque, Viking, and Oldsmobile products shared the newly introduced GMB platform starting in 1926. Buick debuted 2 major achievements for the 1931 model year: the OHV Buick straight 8 engine and a synchronous transmission in all models but the Series 50. The H was offered in 3 displacements. The 220 cubic inch was available in the Series 50 with 77 brake HP. The Series 60 engine was a 272 cu in unit giving 90 brake HP. The Series 80 and Series 90 used a 344 cu in. The version for 104 brake HP. Automatic vacuum-operated spark advance was another new feature, replacing the steering column-mounted spark lever, although an emergency lever was now dash-mounted. Buick scored another first in 1939 when it became the first company to introduce turn signals, which did not appear on other car brands until almost a decade later. All 1939 models also had steering column-mounted shift lever. In the 1930s, Buicks were popular with the British royal family, particularly Edward VIII. He imported and used a Canadian-built McLaughlin Buick that were GM's top brand in Canada, Cadillac not having caught on there. George VI used one for a coast-to-coast royal tour of Canada in 1939. Engines 1904 to 1911. 2 cylinders horizontally opposed at 180 degrees, valves in each head, 159 cu in 1907 to 1924. 4 cylinders inline, valves in head, 165 to 392.6 cu in 1914 to 1930. 6 cylinders inline, valves in head, 191 to 331 cu in 1931 to 1953. 8 cylinders inline, valves in head, 221 to 345 cu in post-World War II years. 1940s. A state introduced as wagon designation on Super. 1942 produced the M18 Hellcat Army tank and supplied radial engines installed in the B-24 Liberator, Douglas C-47 Skytrain, and Douglas C-54 Skymaster. 1948 Dynaflow automatic transmission first offered. 1949 Ventaport's debut. 1950s. 1953 Buick's 50th anniversary. Introduction of Buick V8 engine and Roadmaster Skylark. 1955 Best model year sales to date with 738,814 Buicks sold. 1957 New 364 cu in engine block and amp ball joint front suspension debut. Roadmasters now had aluminum fin brake drums. 1959 Electra, Invicta and LeSabre and 401 cu in V8 introduced. Electra was the official pace car of the Indianapolis 500 race. 1960s 1960, Electra 225 was the official pace car of the Daytona 500 race. 1961, Skylark nameplate returns as top model of new special compact car with new 215 cu in aluminum V8. 1962, Wildcat introduced his trim level on Invicta, special named Motor Trend Car of the Year. 1963, Riviera introduced as its own model with 425 cu in V8 as an option. Wildcat introduced as its own model. Electra 225 was the official pace car of the Daytona 500 race. 1964, Special reintroduced as intermediate-sized car on GM body platform. 1967, radial tires available as options on all full-size Buicks. 1970s 1970, Estate introduced as its own model. GSX High Performance Package first offered on Grand Sport 455. 1971, Centurion and Bowtail. Riviera introduced. 1973, Apollo introduced. Regal introduced as upper trim level on Century. 1975, Skyhawk introduced. Park Avenue introduced his trim option package on Electra 225 Limited. Century was the official pace car of the Indianapolis 500 race. 1976, Century was the official pace car of the Indianapolis 500 race from the second year in a row. 1977, best model year sales to date with 773,313 Buicks sold. 1978, Buick's 75th anniversary. Turbocharged V6 introduced in the Regal Sport Coupe. Best model year sales to date with 795,316 Buicks sold. 1979, Riviera S-Type named Motor Trend Car of the Year. 1980s 1980, diesel engine became available on select Buick models. Somerset introduced his trim option package on Regal Limited. 1981, T-Type performance trim introduced on Riviera. Regal was the official pace car of the Indianapolis 500 race. 1982, Grand National High Performance Package first offered on Regal. First Riviera convertible produced. 1983, Riviera was the official pace car of the Indianapolis 500 race. Best model year sales to date with 810,435 Buicks sold. 1984, official car of the 23rd Olympiad. Best model year sales to date with 906,626 Buicks sold. 1985, Somerset introduced as its own model. Best model year sales to date with 915,336 Buicks sold. 1987, limited production GNX High Performance Package introduced and offered 1 year only on Regal. 1988, official car of the U.S. Olympic team. Reata two-seater introduced. 1989, Ultra introduced as trim option package on Electra Park Avenue. 1990s 1990, first Reata convertible produced. 1991, Park Avenue introduced its own model. Roadmaster returned to line-up after 33-year absence. 1993, Buick's 90th anniversary. Special 90th anniversary edition LeSabre produced to commemorate the milestone. 1999, limited production Riviera Silver Arrow produced to commemorate original 1963 concept. Recent years 2000s. In the 2000s, Buick's lineup was modified with the compact and performance segments being abandoned in favor of the crossover SUV marque, which was growing in popularity. In 2001, Buick introduced its first SUV, the Rendezvous. In 2003, the Buick Centime crossover concept car commemorated Buick Motor Division's 100th anniversary. Some of the Centime's exterior design and interior features would later appear on the 2008 Enclave crossover. In 2004, Buick added the Rainier midsize SUV. Buick began consolidating its lineup in 2005, and by 2008 had reduced it to just 3 models with new nameplates: the 2005 LaCrosse Allure, the 2006 Lucerne, and the 2008 Enclave. In 2008, the Super name returned after a 50-year absence as a new performance trim level on LaCrosse and Lucerne. While the brand's total overall sales slipped in the United States, the profitability of the model lineup ensured Buick's future within General Motors. Since 2005, GM had gradually consolidated Buick with GMC and former Pontiac dealerships to create the current Buick GMC network. During General Motors' Chapter 11 reorganization and emergence in 2009, the company designated Buick as its core brand, citing the division's success in China. Behind the scenes, GM began to move products originally planned for other brands to Buick. The Opel Insignia was originally intended to become the second-generation Saturn Aura, but instead became the new Buick Regal. In the 2009 J.D. Power and Associates Vehicle Dependability Study, Buick tied with Jaguar as the most dependable brand in the United States. 2010s. The 2010s saw the return of a classic Buick nameplate as well as the addition of several new ones, plus the brand's first factory convertible since the early 1990s. In January 2009, Buick unveiled the new 2010 LaCrosse sedan, an all-new styling direction which included traditional Buick cues. The market responded to the LaCrosse with reviews favorably comparing to luxury models such as the Lexus S. In 2010, Buick became the fastest-growing automotive brand and attracted a younger customer demographic. An all-new Regal sedan, a smaller model based on the European Opel Insignia, was reintroduced for the 2011 model year after a 7-year absence. For 2012, the all-new Verano, a compact sedan based on the Chevrolet Cruze, joined the lineup. Additionally, the performance-oriented Regal GS officially went on sale and became the first Buick in almost 20 years to be offered with a manual transmission and a turbocharger. Buick also entered the hybrid market with the introduction of e-assist technology on the 2012 LaCrosse and Regal, which helped improve fuel economy ratings by as much as 38% over the regular gas engine versions. Meanwhile, sales of the Enclave crossover remained strong. In January 2012, the all-new Encore Mini crossover was unveiled at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit. Also in 2012, a turbocharged version of the Verano was introduced and the Enclave was redesigned for the 2013 model year. In 2013, GM confirmed plans of a hybrid global brand, which includes Opel, Vauxhall and Buick, using more synergies between the brands. The Crosse and Regal were refreshed for the 2014 model year. In 2015, the all-new Cascada compact convertible debuted at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit. In November, the all-new 2017 LaCrosse was shown at the Los Angeles Auto Show. Buick also confirmed that the Envision midsize crossover would be sold in North America starting summer 2016. As of 2016, Buick's North American lineup consists of the Encore compact crossover, the Verano compact sedan, the Cascada compact convertible, a Regal midsize sedan, the LaCrosse full-size sedan, the Envision mid-size crossover, and the Enclave full-size crossover. A GM company spokesman said that Buick is positioned as a premium marque to compete with Acura entry-level Lexus models, and Volvo, while Cadillac is aimed at the luxury performance segment, which includes BMW and Mercedes-Benz concept cars. Buick has a long history of creating intriguing concept cars dating back to the Y-Job, the industry's first concept car, of 1938. Its most recent concepts have included the Avenir, unveiled at the 2015 North American International Auto Show, and the Avista, which was unveiled a year later at the 2016 North American International Auto Show.